Good morning, everyone, and salams. Welcome. I hope you guys are all charged up today because today we got a double treat. Instead of one guest, we've got two guests, and our two guests are dynamic young techpreneurs. So, you know, the thing about techpreneurs, right, is that they are full of energy and it's hard to keep up with them when they are speaking. So, we've got Muhammad Dawood with us and Ahmad Khalid, both of whom run a company called Supervised Solutions based in Durban. So Zia is the CEO and Ahmad is the CTO. Now, I think this is quite a treat because here we're looking at techpreneurs, which is something that I always encourage my students to get into techpreneurship, into becoming entrepreneurs. And that's the great thing about the skills that you guys are learning, right? Whether you are specializing in Java or in React or Python, you can choose whether you want to start your own company or you want to work for someone else. But let's see what these two youngsters have to say. I'm very, very inspired and I'm looking forward to this. I have been looking forward to this the whole week. Zia and Ahmad, welcome aboard. I don't know who's going to go first, but I'm really super amped and I'm excited to have you guys on board.
Yeah, we glad to be here. Just a bit of a history on myself and Ahmed, to give you guys some context. We both did electronic and computer engineering, and we very quickly realized that there's not much scope for hardware design here. The software guys, the engineers design modules, they decide which modules are being used, and that's usually not very hard to do nowadays with the type of modular technology we have out there. And then the software guys come and make the magic happen. So very early in our career, we decided to go down the software route. Ahmed and myself both went to school together, played cricket together, went to campus, to Howard, and got our first job at a company called New Media Labs in Cape Town. We worked in the fintech space there for the likes of Net Group Investments. Ahmed did some work for Stanlib, Investec, and 91, which is Investec's asset management group. I think at our core, we were always a bit entrepreneurial. So once we learned and understood how you leave campus with a lot of technical skill, but you don't really understand the business model. So through our years at various companies like NML, LexisNexis, Ahmed was at Ahmed, where else were you at? Part of NML?
Intellect.
And Select. We started to learn the business model. So that's something that you guys should also keep an eye out on is while you're learning your hard skills and maybe some soft skills, pay attention to how is money being made here, right? Everybody there they're not running a charity. And you have to understand the nuances of the business model. Where is the margin being made? And what value are you bringing to your clients to justify that margin? Yeah, Ahmed, you want to talk a bit about yourself as well? I might have covered a lot there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's give an intro.
Yeah, hey guys. Sorry, I was having some issues with my headphones. But yeah, so as Zia said, we've been together for a long time. We studied together, and he went straight into consulting. So you'll see in software space, there's generally two areas, two parts. One is either a product related company or it's a service related company, which is usually the consulting firms. We are into majorly the consulting side of things at first, which is in New Media Labs. And they had a sister company named Matura where we built chatbots. Uh, they built a chatbot, which is a product-based company, and they created a white label chatbot, which they then distributed to different fintech companies such as Netgroup Investments, Stanlib Investments. It was a support feature to their main website, which allowed them to do transactions such as get statements, get tax certificates, and because it was more investment related, they could get fund information. There was some bit of AIS. On the marketing side of things, we promoted we're using AI and stuff, but there was a very small component that was AI. Everything else was very decision tree based. And then after that, Zia moved into a more product based company, which is LexisNexis, which is I think I'm sure you guys have heard of it. The LexisNexis is mostly they provide software for law firms allow them to like refine research papers, the previous court cases, if I'm correct. And then I moved into more consulting space, which is with Intellect. So Intellect had a business model where they would deploy teams to different various clients. And the client that I was deployed to was 91, which is Investec Asset Management. And yeah, so basically both of us got the feel of the product and the consulting part of software. So yeah, so that I think that yeah.
So I think the main takeaway on what Ahmad is saying is understand the huge difference in our space between product and service. And there's merit in both. And you ideally will probably be doing a bit of both. Usually you're gonna, do some service to keep the lights on, and then you have an idea and you use the extra resources you have to throw at that product. Knowing full well that, you know what, in a product situation, the market is your client, and you know what, it might bomb, and it's okay. I think fail fast, and then fail again, and eventually you'll hit right. So just main point from Ahmad's thing is understand that difference and know exactly how much of resources you are going to be deploying in either direction. So pay attention to it, because if you deploy too much of resources to your product, you'll burn your runway. So another thing to focus on is your runway, and how long that is, and extending it so that you can stay alive. Uh, Uncle Bilal, I have a few points that I wanted to talk about, but I can open for questions first based on everything we've spoken about.
Let me just get in with a few questions of my own, which I can imagine are already in the minds of the attendees here, and then we'll get into your points. So my immediate question is, well, before I ask a question, I just want to make a comment. I love what you said, Zia, earlier on about learning the business model. How do these companies actually make money? We tend, as technical people, we tend to learn the technologies, but we don't look at what's going on behind the scenes. Like, for example, when I was working out as a software engineer, I would see work coming in, and it was great. We had projects coming in, and we would do those projects. But I would see that, I would dive into the depths of it and see that my company, that my employer is getting what, like 2 million, 2.5 million for this project. And there are three of us deployed over a period of 3 months. And when I looked at the costings, it was a fraction of the actual cost of the product. And that's when, I also started to become a little aware of the fact that somebody is making a lot of money here, and it's not me. I'm just getting paid my salary. And, that's what inspired me to become more entrepreneurial. Now, students, we've got some really, really amazing guests here today, and I'm sure you got questions lined up. So what I suggest is don't leave your questions for the end. As your questions come up, put them into the chat, and I'll read them out and ask them to our guests. Okay, so my question then, coming to the question is, so how much of time did each of you spend out in the corporate space before you decided to start your own business?
Yeah, go first.
Yeah, I think mm, we mostly investments, and Atura also had net group investment. They used their network, as I was mentioning, that they had a pool of resources that they applied to on a product where I was. And we worked with corporates such as Net Group Investments and Stanley Investments. And then beyond that, when I moved to Intellect, they also worked with a lot of corporate, and they themselves, or even though they won't like to call themselves corporate, like a lot of dev houses that like to say that we're not really corporate, but they are. And their clients, like for example, the one that I worked with, 91, was also a corporate. So I guess our entire experience has been dealing with corporates from the day we graduated and from the day we started to now, which is about 5.5, 6 years, I think. Yeah.
Fantastic. So now you guys I mean, what inspired the move to start up Supervised Solutions? And tell us a little more about Supervised Solutions, what you guys do.
So Supervised Solutions started off as a side hustle, right? Where my first job, it was very apparent to me that I was sort of being underutilized, and we were quite chill. We worked hard for 2 weeks. It was just our sprint cycle. We worked hard for 2 weeks, and then we waited on testers for 1 week, and they were pretty chilled in that work environment. So just for fun, I started a website and took a meeting or two with some guys that I met in the gym, and they were like, "Listen, we need an Angular developer." I must have been using Angular at that point for just 2 or 3 months. And the trick to entrepreneurship is to be a yes man, right? So you're always gonna doubt yourself. You're always gonna think, listen, this is a task that I am not really capable of, and I've never done it before. That person there you gotta ignore, right? Cater for that in your rate. Understand and accept your position in the market, and say, I am still new. I shouldn't be expensive. Accept that and take it as learning. So at that first, it was like, I think it was like 150 to 200 an hour to do some Angular work as a side hustle. And up until today, I still have that client. So, as the years went by, we touch base again, and they have another piece of work. And now our rates are much higher, and we churn out, a much more work per hour. And that's how you then justify your higher rates. So that the entrepreneurial side of it sort of started at the same time as my first job, maybe a few months in. And it's just about seeing the opportunity, identifying it, and betting on yourself.
Fantastic. So I like what you're saying. It's such a interesting perspective, because generally there's this mindset that first I'll go and work for somebody, and then I will get into entrepreneurship. But you did it almost concurrently. You guys did it almost concurrently. So you went into a job, but very quickly you realized that entrepreneurship is going to be my trajectory going forward. You saw that, and you saw the fact that you were being underutilized, and I like that, because what I found working out there are a lot of people who just get comfortable in jobs, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but they get comfortable with being underutilized, and that's how they live their lives. But those are the people that, when a shift happens, they are the ones that are bounced out first before anyone else. And then there are those like yourselves who are always looking for challenges. And I like, I often say that the day my business stops challenging me, I'm going to sell it and start another business because I thrive on these challenges. It's what keeps me sane. But yeah, okay. So let's get to the points that you had, Zia. You said you had prepared some points.
One of the points I have is in line with what you just said, which is to be honest with yourself about your personality type and where your value lies. So I highly encourage everybody as homework. There's a book called Build by Tony Fadell. He designed the first iPod, right? And he goes through his entire technical career, the ideas that they tried and all his failures. It's not just information, it's quite entertaining to read. But there's a lot of good information that if you get early in your career, you'll save yourself a lot of pain. In fact, if you try and make like post-its or stickies of all the important pages of that book, you can't. You'll have to read it again and again. That's how many nuggets of information there are on every single page. But read it, it's very entertaining. And where he also expands on is, there are people that are going to be individual contributors. They aren't people person. They aren't people's people, right? And it's okay. There's two paths to getting rich, right? You can be highly technical and become specialized, and you want to just get your work on the backlog, and you don't want to deal with clients, and you don't want to deal with any social aspects of work. You just want to be that that go-to guy goes and gets a problem and they leave him alone for a month. That's okay. We need those people. Without those people, we'll have big problems, right? And eventually, those people also make a lot of money, right? So don't discount that. And if you feel you are that person, go for it. But if you feel like you have the people skills to, lead a team, then do so. But don't fall into this trap where you are a technical person, right? And then you measure up against a friend of yours, right? And that friend of yours is now becoming a team leader, and you'll have the same years of experience, and you're like wondering, like, I also want to get that position. Don't think that way, right? Understand your value, right? That's one of the reasons me and Ahmad work so well together. Ahmad is a beast at technical problems, right? And I like business end of things, right? And together we bring, I think, equally important value to the team. So when you're there and you're seeing your friend or somebody getting who and you have to be honest, is more social, your path is honestly on a technical level. If you look at the salaries of a senior architect versus a team lead over time, the senior architect goes to the moon with his salary. The team lead, he might have jumped in the starting, but he doesn't start bringing actual business to the company, he's not going to be making as much. So yeah, that was just on your point.
Brilliant. So we got a question here, and I think it speaks so well to what we've been talking about so far. This is a question from Jade. I'm not sure if you did a uni course for software. Okay, that's another topic altogether, whether universities are actually preparing people. But okay, I think let's cover where your skill set came from, right? You mentioned Angular, but her actual question is this, that ID Varsity is my third boot camp while doing a further 3 other full-time courses. I feel like I am stuck in courses, but still feel unprepared to apply for a job. At which point does one know you have enough skills to do what a job requires? I think that's a very, very pertinent question that plagues a lot of juniors there. But let's start with university, right? And the preparedness level that university brought you to, and how much you did by yourself, how much of self-learning got you where you are.
Yeah, so I think, okay, go ahead, Ahmad. Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, as Zia mentioned, like our background is mainly in engineering, and we had minimal courses, like software related courses during our 4-year degree. I think we did C and C++, which were ancient languages by the time we were studying them in campus. And when we came out, and I'm going to speak to that question as well, is that the stuff that were being used in the industry, which is .NET, Java, were not taught to us on undergrad. And we went and applied for jobs. I think the employers at the time were looking for more for people that had the enthusiasm to learn the new things, and they had the right attitude rather than the actual skills that they had. Because once a programmer is always a programmer, it's a matter of changing languages is not really a problem for any software engineer. So when we went in for our first job, we knew nothing. We knew nothing in terms of what software what tech stack they were using. We were just engineers that just came off fresh out of campus, and they put us on this 3-month boot camp, which they took us through. They gave us this courses on Udemy to do, which is relevant to the clients that they were servicing, the tech that they were utilizing. So just to answer my opinion about that is, I don't think we should dive too much into like trying to do courses and be like, okay, now I know enough, because you never know enough. There's just too much out there. And what you have to do is you have to find the right job. And once you're into the job and once you understand what tech they are using, then doing courses is far more beneficial than we doing far more prior to it and then realizing after that, oh no, this is actually of no use to me. But once you're in the job and once you realize, okay, maybe they put you in a certain area or a certain tech, maybe they ask you to go do React side of things, but then you also realize that another part of the company is using backend, they're using .NET, or maybe they're doing some cloud computing. Then you realize, okay, maybe I can start doing that as a side whilst I'm still doing my job, and then you can get your skills, more of those skills. But you can't. But I wouldn't suggest prior like trying to tick all the boxes and then going to apply for a job. Just apply for a job. Just I think that when you have just graduated, the employers don't expect you to start coming and start writing like this amazing code, or starting writing production code. They all understand that. They know every company that we've been into, like New Media Labs and Intellect, they have the personal boot camps that they take you through, so you are client ready for them. They understand that graduates come, they just know the basics. We just touch the basics in any learning environment or in universities. The actual work and the actual learning only happens in when you are client facing, or when you're actually doing production level work. So yeah, so don't bog down and spend too much time, in my opinion, doing a whole lot of range of courses which you might not even need. Rather, find your niche, find what you really what excites you, and then you can dive deeper into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, especially when it comes to somebody employing you on your first job and they know it's your first job, it's their responsibility to teach and find value in you, right? You're not going to land there valuable, right? But your attitude towards bringing that value is what you have control over. So someone gives you a task that's, bigger than you expect, or, out of your realm of understanding. Before you start saying, listen, I don't know how to do this after spending, just 2 hours looking at your screen, the amount of tools available out there for you to gain some context and go into, use ChatGPT, use whatever you need to try, so that when you come back to either a manager or a team lead or, a peer and say, listen, I'm stuck. You're not coming back saying, I'm stuck, I don't know anything. You're saying, oh, listen, I've looked at this, I've looked into this, I've tried this, and this is where I'm stuck. Come back with context, show that you've tried. And the people in our industry are very, very, very collaborative and helpful. We all had our first jobs, and we all had the same planet. And slowly but surely, one day you'll eventually just start to finish, deliver your first full story point without anyone holding your hand. And it's a big thing, you have a moment where you're like, okay, I did that start to finish. It might have been a minimal, small, stupid task where I was just changing some styling, but you actually brought client value, you know what I mean? For a billable hour without anyone's hand holding on something small. That's something that a senior engineer would have had to take, maybe 15 minutes, 15 expensive minutes doing, right? So you brought value. So just don't try and land there valuable. Try and land there with a good attitude.
Phenomenal. In other words, what you guys are saying is don't get caught up in, I don't know what's the term, they say what? Don't get caught up in course hell, where you're just doing course after course after course, and you're not building up enough confidence to take that plunge and and apply, because that's the nature of this field. It just keeps changing. One, and the second thing is, even if it doesn't change, it's just so vast that you could end up spending a lifetime learning things. Whereas, and I'm hearing this loud and clear in what you guys are saying, whereas in the company you work for, you might just qualify, or you might just need a tiny subset of all the technologies that go with it. I mean, think of any one technology, whether it's the .NET space or the Java space. There's just so much. But in any given company, you'll probably end up focusing on just one tiny subset. And there's another issue that I find, which we need to overcome, which is that when you look at job postings, I think the person who's doing the job posting is just going online and finding every single technology that they can possibly imagine and putting it there. I don't think there's a developer in the world who can fulfill all of those job postings. But you know what? Apply nonetheless. You don't know which one will be right for you and where you'll get your feedback. Okay, so another question from Jade, and I like this question here. Can you give me an idea of what a junior dev would be expected to do in their first position? So a junior dev position. I like this.
So we sort of taken we enjoyed our experience in our onboarding, right? So when we hire someone, the first 3 months, we're not expecting to get a single line of usable code, right? We have specific courses, C# fundamentals, maybe a little bit of Angular, where we give you exposure to the full stack, and we work at your pace, and by the end of it can be done in a month, right? We plan for 3 months because maybe someone gets a bit stuck or wants to go a bit deeper into a topic. We want to allow space for that. But by the end of that 3 months, you should have a good general understanding of the software principles we're looking for. And this leads me to another point, which is don't fall in love with some tech stack and try and become the best Angular developer in the world. Those days are over. You need to get your fundamentals correct, understand your hook, understand good software development principles, understand the software development life cycle, and then be able to apply that in any tech. Tomorrow, if you've never touched React in your life, but you know Angular and you've played with Angular, the jump is never that big. You understand it's usually a change in syntax, maybe a little bit of a change in informational flow, but as long as you have your basic principles, you can jump in on a code base that is built in React and you have a bug to fix, you understand the bug, you understand where the code is, and then using the internet and ChatGPT, you should be able to, doggy paddle your way through solving the problem.
Spoken like a true developer. When you look at these childish debates that go on online about which language is better, and it's amateurs. It's just amateurs who are insecure about themselves. I love what you are saying, and that's something I always emphasize to my students. Learn to build solutions, learn to solve problems using whatever tools are at your disposal. So if you are required to work with nothing more than HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, do that. If it's React, do that. And I often show them in some of my videos that if you look at a controller class, whether it's in Java, .NET, Python, one of the Python frameworks, they all look almost identical with slight syntactic differences between them. So it's really quite it's cool what you're saying, and I appreciate that, because it shows wisdom. It shows you've been there and you know that it's all about building the solutions, not about what technology you use. So there's another question or a statement here from Subhan. Oh, it's a statement. He says to make a mini side portfolio or website, just keep adding on with your skills. Over time, you'll be impressed. Okay, I think he's responding to Jade's question here. And this is one of the things that we make it mandatory for our students to do, to create and maintain a portfolio website. So that portfolio website, it becomes almost a one-stop shop to get to know who this person is and what their journey looks like, where you started off and where you are currently. And so, we give them hosting for life, and they focus on building that. So I got a question now, right? This is from my side. Everyone here is studying a 1-year qualification with us, and they know very well I don't believe in longer qualifications than 1 year. You come in, and sometimes within 3 to 6 months, we get our students out there into the workplace, and they can continue learning because it's all online. But what advice would you give somebody who is in that stage right now, in that stage of their career where they are learning? I know it's a very wide world, and there's a lot of options, so many options there that it can get confusing. What advice can you guys give to them?
Okay, so I have some sad news in this regard. Is that you guys are gonna have, as a developer or as an engineer, you're gonna have imposter syndrome from now till the day you die, right? Every time you are faced with a task, you're gonna wonder, am I good enough? Am I gonna be able to do it? And you're never going to stop to look back and say, I felt this way for the last 10 things and I managed to do it. You're never in that moment going to have that feeling. It's just going to hit you. And it is part of the landscape of being in tech. Imposter syndrome is part of the job description, and you're gonna have to get over it. So just go ahead and ignore your imposter syndrome and say yes to things. Say yes to things and fail. It's okay to fail if you try. And in the workplace, that's especially true. And you rather deal with someone that's positive and tries and then fails than someone who just immediately says, no, I don't think I'm prepared. Ahmad?
No, I think you answered it well there. I don't think there's anything else on that.
Ahmad, what would be your advice to these juniors who are still in the incubator, in a manner of speaking? I mean,
Uh,
2024, how you put yourself in that situation as them now, what would be your mindset? I'm keen to know that.
Okay, I think my advice again, I think keep the options wide open, right? And like, don't Zia mentioned this earlier as well. Don't get stuck into something, into one niche and then say, okay, this is it for me. Always try and try and be open to using other technologies and try and keep up to the AI space out there. Try and use that as leverage, because that's something that now is becoming very relevant into our development space, where people are using these AI tools to improve productivity. So don't discard that. I think that's very important that you use these tools effectively to improve your productivity. So that's something, I think that's an advice that I will give from my side.
Well, can you just talk to them a little bit about using AI responsibly, right? Because this goes wrong, right? Where people who don't know much about something lean too hard on AI. Don't do that. First, go do the course, the short Udemy course on Angular, for example, without using AI, so you understand the fundamentals. You want AI to augment your skills. You don't want AI to write all your code, because then when you have a problem, you have absolutely no idea how to solve it. And we've seen that in our office as well. And we've seen it happen where AI got abused, and then you ask a very simple fundamental question like where is this data coming from? And the person doesn't know at all, because they managed to get something quite amazing done using AI, but you then stuck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think 100% correct. I think you have to know. So, for example, if you are, say, writing an application or some software that you are designing, and you're writing that in Java or whatever, you can't go to ChatGPT and be like, hey, give me the entire application or whatever it is. You have to understand, you have to apply your mind at first, and then use it effectively to boost your productivity. That's what I was trying to say. You want to use it to boost your productivity rather than letting it solve your fundamental design stuff. And it's very important to use it to understand what you write, not just take in, copy and paste, and then that's it. You have to have your own solution and then have confidence in that solution. And then you can verify it with using AI and be like, okay, hey, this is the problem that I'm facing. This is the solution approach that I'm thinking about. What do you think? And maybe you can elaborate on options, and you can learn and learn and learn. The last part of it is always the code. The code is not the first thing. We don't ever start with code. Start with just brainstorming solutions, and then using AI to more augment, or more assist you to more finalize it and may put the finishing touches, rather than asking it to solve the entire thing. So yeah, I think using it responsibly is 100% correct. I use it to speed up your working rather than replace your working. So yeah.
Fantastic. I'm so glad you guys brought up the topic of AI, because there's a lot of doom and gloom out on social media about AI replacing developers and things, which I honestly and personally feel is nonsense. And every senior developer that I've had on board here as my guest is saying the same thing. Those that are on the outside are saying that AI will replace developers, and those that are on the inside have absolutely no concern about that, because we know what the work entails. So it's like you say, it's about building solutions. It's about finding creative solutions to problems. And I think that's always going to be a human thing. So one last question, guys, and then we'll wrap up. This one is, from Jade again, what skills do you look for when interviewing a junior dev? And what would cost somebody the job? So in other words, what would turn you off from somebody?
Hey, like this honesty. Like if you're not honest, you if it's very quick for someone to realize that feedback you're getting is not honest. So like for example, I say don't use GPT completely. Use it to help you. And then I ask a few questions. It's very quick to understand. Okay, this person definitely has absolutely no clue what they've done. They just spewed out GPT code. So that's something that is going to be looked at in the workplace very carefully nowadays, especially with new hires. The truth of the matter is, in South Africa, our labor laws are like second to none, right? You cannot lose your job easily, right? You really have to mess up very badly to lose your job, right? So in that regard, I think it's in that first 3 months you need to take your job very seriously. Not to say don't take it for the rest of your life seriously, but I'm saying that's a critical moment in South African employment. But yeah, other than this honesty, if you, as long as you're trying and you are working and giving it your all, it doesn't matter. Even if you, for the rest of your life, I know a developer's capability is half that of the person sitting next to them. It's fine as long as you're bringing value and you're trying. It's okay.
Fantastic, fantastic insights, guys. Thanks for this. You guys brought so much of energy to today's episode and so much of wisdom.
Can I give one more piece of advice?
Yeah, go for it.
Just one more on my list is that it's very, very seductive to want to work from home. I understand the want to do that, and I think there's a time for it. But when I look back at our first 2 to 3 years of employment experience, we got into our office every day, and we knew, if we had an SQL problem, we knew who to go to immediately, and they would immediately laugh and solve the problem in 2 minutes with a beautiful explanation. If we had a front-end problem, if we had a back-end problem, we had a cloud problem, there was someone to get up to, tap a shoulder, and you got instant feedback and learning. And that is something that you guys need to take very seriously when you go hunting for a work from home job. My advice is, when you are intermediate and you're a senior and you already have found your footing, lovely, well and good. It's an amazing life, and I respect people that want to do that, right? But there's a time for it. And it's not when you get your first job in this space, because if you find a company that is working in office and it's your first job, and hopefully, if you're lucky, even their seniors are coming in office, the amount of value that will help you for the rest of your life from rubbing shoulders with those people is not something you're going to get online working from home.
Yeah.
So just bear that in mind when you are hunting for work from home on your first job.
Phenomenal, phenomenal. That's a huge, modern day question about whether to work from home. And I think I'm 100% in agreement. Junior developers, go out there, at least spend a few years working under the shadow of a senior developer, because that incidental learning is just golden, right? You learn so much there that and just maybe one question and one suggestion from a senior developer will save you hours of research time. And that is something I found over and over again. Okay, guys, I don't want to keep you up. I know how busy you guys are. Just one thing. It often happens that some of my students, they would like to ask questions after the fact. They would like to maybe look up to you guys as mentors. With your permission, we'll establish a line of communication with you guys. I promise you, they won't overdo it. But yeah, okay. So I was about to ask, thanks for sharing your email addresses. Students, take down these email addresses. You got two dynamic techpreneurs here who are always there. You can see these guys are as young as they are. They have a lot of wisdom. So ask away. And also lean on their networks to land that first job. And it's like they said, stop doubting yourself. You got the skills. You got the skills right now. You just need the right attitude. You need the courage to dive in, and you can make a go of your career, just like these two young men made a go of their careers. Once again, Zia and Ahmed, thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. On behalf of my students, thanks for
everyone.
taking the time and for your golden advice.
Thanks
everyone.
guys. Feel free to drop us emails. When you guys are looking for work, feel free to drop your CVs. And the only prerequisite is if you're junior, it's in office. So if you're looking to work from home, this is the wrong place.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot,
All right.
guys.
Jazakallah. Thanks everyone. Thanks for your time.